After the first season, this second one finally arrives. Of course, everything begins with Sung at the airport. He didn't take the flight due to the last thing he saw when searching through the crowd. He receives a call saying, "You will regret not taking that flight," to which he replies that he will find them, even if it's the last thing he does. He then goes to the bathroom and removes the chips embedded in his body. On the other hand, we learn that Juno wakes up in a hospital alive. 2 years pass since all this happened. Episode 1, Bread and Lottery. We see Juno, who works as a transit officer, finding one of the fraudsters for not wearing a helmet. After charging him, a colleague appears and shouts at him. Together, they go to eat, where Juno asks if those games really exist, since even though he claims that all those people participated, there is no proof that they exist. Despite tracing the bullet in his shoulder, they found nothing. They needed evidence. We see that Juno denies saying his brother was the leader of the first games. On the other hand, we see that Sung owns a motel and he was checking the security camera. Just then the bell rings, and he opens it, seeing his brother and friends' heads. But it was all a dream. When he wakes up, he talks to a private investigator who tells him they've been monitoring the subway stations for 2 years and still haven't seen anyone suspicious recruiting people. Still, Sung tells him that around this time, he received an invitation to those games. He tells him to watch the stations at all times and not to worry about the money. He should hire as many men as possible. The investigator, seeing the money, doesn't hesitate and hires the men, telling them they would win 500 million won if they find the man. Returning with Juno, he goes with a friend on a boat. They are searching islands to find the game's headquarters. But after 2 years, they haven't found anything. Meanwhile, the investigators hire random people with one goal: to find a man who plays with red and blue cards and offers a card to whoever finds him. The one who finds him wins 500 million won. Upon hearing this, everyone goes to the stations in search of the man. They quickly start sending photos to Sung of various men, but none of them are the right one. Meanwhile, Yuno searches the islands, but no one is successful. Days pass, and neither Sung nor Yuno finds anything. But they don't give up. The date is approaching, and it's likely the games will take place. One night, the investigator sends a photo showing nothing. On the other hand, the captain and Yuno decide to stop searching since they almost capsized the boat due to storms. The next morning, the investigator and his partner begin a new search. But his partner, tired from not finding anything, tells him they won't find anything and that the man is crazy. Suddenly, they hear a noise. Someone was playing Tachi. They quickly alert Sung and begin to follow him. The recruiter first goes to a bakery, taking all the bread, then to a lottery, buying 100 tickets. The investigators follow him and arrive at a park. The recruiter meets a beggar and offers him either bread or a lottery ticket. The beggar chooses the lottery ticket, but he doesn't win. The man then moves on to another beggar and offers him the same thing. The second beggar chooses the lottery ticket as well, but again, he doesn't win. This continues with many beggars, but no one is lucky. Finally, the man stands in the middle of the park, throws all the bread on the ground, and starts stepping on it. He says that he gave them the opportunity to choose, and they all chose. On the other hand, Sung is detained by the police for speeding. The officer who stops him is Juno, but he sends his partner instead. The recruiter gets into an orange car, and the investigators quickly follow him. Sung pays his fine and leaves. Seeing this, Juno thinks it's suspicious and is shocked when he checks the name. The investigators follow the recruiter but are easily defeated. Juno investigates the man and discovers he was someone familiar. Remembering the past, Sung arrives at the investigator's location but only finds red liquid and no trace of the recruiter. We see the recruiter watching them. These men are tied in a room by the recruiter, who tells them they'll play rock paper scissors and then Russian roulette. One will survive. At first, one of them doesn't want to play, but the recruiter speaks seriously. Here, we see the loyalty of the boss, who lets his partner win. Afterward, the recruiter wants to talk to him. Returning with Juno, he begins to search for evidence and clearly discover they were looking for the recruiter of the games. Then a man enters and confirms his suspicions. On the other hand, Sung arrives at his apartment and finds the recruiter. The recruiter tells him he should have gotten on that plane, but Sung replies that he didn't because he saw him. The recruiter mentions that he's just a messenger, that he's been recruiting people he considers worthless to society from the beginning, even his own father, whom he had to eliminate. Still, he didn't hesitate. Now, he wants to play a game with Sung. The game starts, and they both shoot, but neither loses. Finally, there are 2 bullets left. The recruiter tells him that if he wants to meet the leader, the answer is in his pocket, though he could live if he just accepts that he's garbage like everyone else. Sung gathers courage and shoots. Knowing he won, Sung tells the recruiter that he can shoot him, but he has to admit that he's just a dog obeying his master. The recruiter shoots, and that's how the first episode ends. Episode 2, Halloween Party. The episode begins with Juno hearing a gunshot. He quickly enters the scene and finds the investigator, who tells him they're in room 410. Juno goes up and tries to arrest Sung, but the investigator arrives and knocks him out. Sung points a gun at him, but the investigator begins to explain that he was the one following the recruiter, even though he didn't know Sung in person. Later, the man sees the recruiter dead and is happy because he had killed his boss. Finally, a card with an address is revealed in Sung's hands. On the other hand, we meet a girl sleeping in a car, who will surely be important. She receives a call for parking in a prohibited area. Meanwhile, Juno is with Sung, and they begin talking about the first games. Sung mentions that he wants to stop them. Juno says he's heard about the leader, but he's never seen him and doesn't know who he is. However, he also wants to find out why his brother got involved in the games and wants to help him. They both enter a room where three men are willing to do anything. Sung offers them all his money in exchange for their help. He then takes them to another room where he shows them all the weapons he has gathered to face the group behind the games. Later, we move to a children's party where the bears go into the dressing room. We see the girl from before, who works at the place. A girl enters the dressing room, and everyone quickly puts on their masks. However, one who wasn't aware enters without a mask. The girl starts crying when she sees him. We learn that the girl needs a bone marrow transplant because she has leukemia. The girl observes closely the drawing the child made for her. Returning to Sung, he visits Bond's mother. During the visit, he sees a boy and realizes it's her grandson. Later, an investigator informs him that they found Sabak's mother. She had recently been released from a prison camp where there was a tuberculosis outbreak, and she didn't receive proper treatment. Upon hearing this, Sung tells the investigator to do whatever it takes to bring her, regardless of the cost. Finally, in a hallway, Sung meets the girl, and we discover her name is Noel. She is a mother looking for her daughter but lost her due to a conflict. She shot her superior officer and had to flee south. Investigator, hearing her story, advises her to forget about her daughter. That night, Noel drinks while crying, looking at her daughter's picture. Suddenly, someone knocks on her window and gives her an invitation. Returning to Juno, he talks to his mother about his brother. She continues to wait for him. It's revealed that his brother donated a kidney to Juno but couldn't save his wife because she got sick. Additionally, he accepted a bribe, but everything went wrong, which led him to flee. Returning to Noel, she hands in her resignation and leaves the place. Before leaving, an ambulance arrives for the girl, and they take her away. Later, Sung goes to a dentist who removes one of his teeth to place a prosthesis with a GPS. Noel goes to the hospital with the girl, and the doctor tells the father that the girl needs new treatment, but it's not covered by insurance and is very expensive. Noel enters the room alone and sees the girl. On the other hand, Sung hires a group of Special Forces ex-Marines, led by someone with a lot of combat experience. Together, they plan to go to the location marked on the card. They have a plan, but Juno is unsure if it will work. Something worries him. Sung orders them not to attack unless they get the signal. Juno can't participate because his face was exposed during the first games. Before leaving, Sung talks to his daughter but says nothing. Meanwhile, Noel calls the card's number, confirms her details, and is told that a white van will pick her up on October 31st. Sung arrives at the meeting place with Juno and another companion. A Halloween party is taking place there. The three enter the party, put on masks, and check that the tracker is working. While Sung searches the place, Juno watches from the street and sees two men dressed as guards pass by. Juno quickly alerts Sung, who runs to see who they are. But one of the guards finds and knocks out Mr. Choi. The other guard takes Sung down a hallway, directing him to a white van. Meanwhile, Juno checks the tracker signal and gives the order to the mercenaries. Sung communicates with the leader, who asks why he's looking for him. Sung replies that he wants to end the game. However, the leader explains that the purpose of the game is to eliminate the losers or the trash the world discards, and as long as such people exist, the game will continue. The mercenaries pursue the van, but soon snipers shoot at the three vehicles, preventing them from continuing. Sung shoots the van window but doesn't manage to do anything. Faced with the situation, Sung offers to participate in the game again. This happens while Juno listens to the conversation. Then he challenges Sung, saying if he's afraid to lose like the fighter. To which Sung responds that his wishes are orders and agrees to participate in the games. Meanwhile, the same gas that knocked him out in the first season begins to be released. He opens the window, and the leader says, 456. Welcome back to the game. Juno signals Plan B, while the mercenaries follow the tracker. At the same time, Noel heads to the meeting place, but this time there's no trailer with room numbers. To our surprise, Noel is not a player but a guard for the games. Episode 3001. The episode begins with Juno, who goes with the captain, the mercenaries, and Mr. Choi heading to follow the tracker that will take them to the location of the next games. On the other hand, Sung wakes up and discovers that he's once again wearing a green suit. All players have an assigned number. A woman, number 44, approaches him and says her past brought her there. She asks him to do a cleansing if they survive to remove all the bad vibes she carries. A guard welcomes the players and explains the rules. 6 games, 6 days, and the winner will take all the money. The total prize is 45.6 billion wons. This time, at the end of each game, they can decide whether to continue or go home with the accumulated money. Sung asks if winning just one game and leaving will allow them to keep the money. The guard confirms that's correct. Meanwhile, the players begin talking among themselves. A YouTuber asks for his phone to check his trading. The guard responds that he also owned a YouTube channel but invested 15.2 million wons and lost it all. He's practically there for the same reasons as many participants. Bankrupt. In the middle of the conversation, an old lady interrupts and asks what her son is doing in those games. The boy, surprised, asks his mother why she's there. She replies she came to pay his debts. He angrily asks the guard why they let an old woman into the game. The guard explains that all participants are there voluntarily and must sign a confidentiality agreement to confirm their participation. He also reminds them that they can leave after each game if they wish. Many are skeptical about making money by only participating in one game. First, the YouTuber is confronted by a rapper and his friend, who accuse him of making them lose their savings by trusting him. The YouTuber responds that it was under his warning, and it's not his fault. Still, the rapper warns him that he'll have to win to repay the money. For now, they must line up to register with a photo. This is where the famous Sung photo appears. Meanwhile, Juno and the others arrive at an island. The captain mentions he knows the place because people used to live there. But now only fishermen remain on the shores. When they arrive, to their surprise, they find only a man fishing. Returning to Sung, he walks while someone familiar calls him. It's his old friend Jong-bi, who had asked him for money. It turns out he got divorced and is now bankrupt. He entered the game without knowing anything, as he hadn't had contact with Sung for 3 years. Sung tells him he must obey him and not separate from him. Soon after, Sung touches his tooth and discovers there is no locator. Puzzled, he says, "I'm lost." Meanwhile, the mercenaries find the locator in a boat full of worms, leaving Sung completely alone. The first game begins. Red light, green light, just like in the first season. Everyone recognizes the game, but Sung is the only one who seems worried. He stands in front and warns that this is not a children's game and that if they are detected moving, they will be killed. However, everyone laughs at him and thinks he's crazy. No one takes his warning seriously. The game begins with the appearance of a new doll. In parallel, we see the leader observing from a control room. This leader turns out to be Juno's brother. As the game progresses, Gi-Hun gives instructions not to move and to follow the rules. At first, everyone begins to pass without problems, following Gi-Hun's rhythm. But something unexpected happens. The girl on the motorcycle from the beginning gets stung by a bee during the game. When she moves, she is detected and eliminated. Panic takes over the players as they realize Gi-Hun was right. Many lose control and begin running, trying to escape. However, most are eliminated in the attempt. Even the last player to move is shot dead by Null, who also participates as a guard in the game. After the game, everyone is called to vote if they wish to continue or end the games. The first to pass is Sung. But before doing so, the lady from the beginning tells him that no matter what he does, he won't escape his fate. Still, Sung votes to leave. One by one, the players begin voting. The second player to pass votes to stay. Sung realizes that despite everything they've lived through, many are blinded by money. Sung tries to persuade them, reminding them that in each game many will be eliminated and in the end everyone will die. However, player number 100 confronts him, questioning how he knows that. He hints that Sung could be working for the organizers. Jong-bi defends Sung, reminding them that, thanks to him, many survived. The old lady supports Sung, saying they should vote to leave. Amid the shouting, Sung reveals that he had already participated in these games before. He explains that all the previous players died, and he was the only survivor. Player number 100 asks why he came back if he had already won and had the money. The rapper intervenes, saying that if Sung could win, they could too. He also suggests that Sung share some tricks on how to win. This motivates the other players, who begin to support him. The voting becomes more intense. The scoreboard moves to 180, 181. Player number 7 votes against, leaving the score tied 182 to 182. The last to vote is player number 1. Everyone tries to convince him which option to choose. Finally, player 1 votes to continue. At that moment, it is revealed that player number 1 is none other than the leader of the Squid Games. Episode 4, 6 Legs. The episode begins with the players looking for Sung to ask him what the next game will be and how he won in his previous participation. Sung explains that the next game will involve cookies, and they must extract a shape without breaking them. He warns them that the easiest shape is the triangle, while the most difficult is the umbrella. Player number 100 approaches Sung and thanks him for giving them hope during the vote, which motivated him to vote to continue. However, he also points out that if everyone wins the second game, the prize won't increase, which could be a double-edged sword. After the others leave, Sung's friend asks which shape he chose in the previous games. Sung recalls uncomfortably what happened in that game. Later, player number 1, who is the leader, approaches Sung for a conversation. Sung does not know who player number 1 really is. He timidly asks if Sung really won the previous games, and if so, why he returned if he already had all the money. Sung replies that the money wasn't really his, that it was stained with the lives of all the participants who died. He also blames the system and the organization for his presence there. The leader reminds him that 182 people voted to continue the games, proving that it's not his fault. Then he asks a question: if they had decided to leave, would people be happy? And if they met those people outside, would they thank them for saving their lives? The conversation is interrupted by Sung's friend, who says it's useless to blame each other and that they should focus on the game the next day. At that moment, number 388, an ex-Marine, recognizes Sung's friend, who was also a Marine. Tension increases between other players. The YouTuber is under pressure from the rapper and his friend, who demand the money they invested in their crypto. Despite this, the YouTuber insists that he is just as broke as they are. Meanwhile, the old lady discovers that one of the players is pregnant and suggests she should take care of herself. Returning to the rapper, he and his friend starts beating the crypto guy. Just then number 1 interrupts and strikes him. The day ends, and the guards retire to their rooms. In her room, Null recalls player 246 and discovers that he is the father of the girl who has leukemia from his previous job. That night, many players can't sleep and only stare at the giant pig full of money. Later, number 1 approaches Sung again to apologize for what happened, and the leader shares his personal story. He explains that his wife was very ill and needed a kidney transplant. During medical studies, they discovered she was pregnant. Only one of them could live, and he decided to let his son be born. He asked for all the money possible to save his wife. But it wasn't enough. Everything worsened, and a client lent him money, which led to him being accused of accepting bribes. As a result, he lost his job despite dedicating years of his life to that place. Without anywhere to go, he got involved in the games. The leader admits that he knows the money is stained with blood but insists it's for his family, as he needs it. Meanwhile, the guards are taking organs from the player's body. But many of the organs are no longer useful because a guard is eliminating them entirely. When they reach below, their organs no longer work. A different guard leaves the room, and they are informed that guard number 11 is knocking out a lot of merchandise, and soon they will visit her. They tell her to go with the officer. They go upstairs to a room, and she takes off her mask, asking why he's doing this. They reveal that they have known each other for 7 years. The first time was in a hospital. After killing an entire military battalion, he felt pity for her and decided to give her a chance. She only needs to obey what they tell her. She says the problem is that 7 years ago, the deal was to let people rest so they wouldn't suffer anymore, and he helped bring her daughter from the north. However, now they are trading with the players. Meanwhile, Juno returns to the station and asks his captain for help. He tells the officer they must search for the island. It exists, and this could be their last chance. However, the police won't help. He later talks to Mr. Choi and they go to search for the island again. Mr. Choi talks to the captain who says he doesn't know how they found out about the mole. Someone leaked the information, but what he does know is that everything they were told is real, and those people do exist. The second game begins. But things have changed. The figures are different. Now, the triangle is the most complex. Everyone begins to blame Sung for making them believe it was easy. But it turns out it's just a dream. The alarm sounds, and a new day begins. It turns out that the pregnant girl's name is Tan, and she is the ex-girlfriend of the YouTuber, who is there because she also believed in him. She wants her baby, which is why she is there to pay her debts. The guards leave, and the players head to the game room. Everyone is confident that it will be a triangle, and the rapper eats some sweets. When they arrive at the game room, it's different. The voice announces that the game will be played with 5 players, and they must choose a figure. But none of them are triangles. They are different figures. Quickly, the 4 of them unite and go to find the 5th member. Meanwhile, everyone else searches for a team. The trans girl joins with a girl since everyone was staring at her. The old lady and the nerd can't join anyone because they think the old lady is a disadvantage. However, the rejected ones later unite. And finally, the pregnant girl joins Sung. This time, they must complete all the mini-games in just 5 minutes. Each member must decide who will play each minigame. So they organize themselves to figure out who is good at the games to win. After doing so, they begin. Team 1 and Team 2 start. Everyone seems to be enjoying it because it's a race against time. Both teams try to complete the games, but this gives others the chance to see how to do them. With 3 minutes left, others start practicing, and time is running out. Both teams try to pass, but even those who know can't get past the third game. Finally, time runs out. As announced, everyone is eliminated. After the guards collect the bodies, they find one still alive, so Noel decides to eliminate him. After that, the game resumes, and teams 3 and 4 move to the starting line. Episode 5, one more game. Teams 3 and 4 face off, but this time with the advantage of seeing the games. They start passing more quickly. Team of the old lady does everything right. With all this, they see it as possible, and everyone cheers them on. When they reach the top game, the rare lady gets nervous and fails. However, the trans girl gives her a good slap and she regains her focus, winning the game. They finally reach the final test. The trans girl manages to complete it, and so they win the game with just 1 second left. Everyone celebrates, but the other team is eliminated. So all teams move on until they finally reach Sung's team, the last one, and there are no players left. The game starts, and each of them does the games perfectly. That's how they reach the top. It's the leader's turn, and he tries over and over but fails. However, with 1 minute left, he does it and moves on to the final game. Sung dominates the ball and survives in the second game. Sung's team enters, and some are upset because this reduces the prize money. Meanwhile, the guards go to their rooms, but this time 2 guards go with Noel and warn him to stop killing them, or it will be his downfall. Returning to Sung, one of them says they present themselves, and here the leader's name, Junil, is revealed, meaning the one. Soon the guards enter the room, and the second game results are announced. The total prize now is 20.1 billion wons. The players eliminated in the previous round were 110. Many are dissatisfied, as it wouldn't even amount to 100 million for each of them. So the guard says they have the option to leave. They must vote again. Everyone gathers in the center. But this time, player number 1 will start voting. Everyone begins to vote, and although at first, it seemed like the game would end soon, but then everyone starts vote to continue. Like the trans girl, for reasons we don't know, and others because of the pressure from their teams, which make them change their minds. Seeing this, Sung speaks up, but it turns out the leader also speaks. He tells them that after everything they've seen, they still want to move forward. But one of them says that with what they would take, they wouldn't be able to pay off their debts. The leader says that if he dies, his family will be left with his debt. Just when it seemed like he was convincing them, someone says that the young ones can restart their lives, but the older ones can risk everything. Just like they ask for one more game. The vote is restarted, and this time, too many decide to continue. And even though Sung was the last, it doesn't matter, and game 3 will continue. After the vote, everyone starts asking how much money they need and why they decided to continue. In Sung's case, he says that he will start the guard shift because people might kill others during the night to increase the prize. The leader responds that people wouldn't do that. But Sung assures him that it happened in the previous games. So he will take the first guard shift. At that moment, the pregnant girl feels the urge to go to the bathroom. And so does the elderly woman. Both are accompanied to ensure nothing happens. Then, we learn that the trans girl wants to get at least a few million and move to Thailand for a better life. She explains that she was once a soldier. But after deciding to have surgery and change her gender, no one wanted her, and everyone saw her as strange. On the other side, the elderly woman says she is angry with her son but reveals that they need at least 100 million because that's what they owe. Sung's friend confesses that if he had lent money to his mother that day at the bar, maybe he could have saved her, and none of this would have happened. However, he assures that on that day, he truly didn't have money, and that's why he's here. The next day, all the players gather for the third game. This time, Sung has no advantage, as the game is completely different. Additionally, now it will be in pairs, and thus begins game 3. Episode 6, OX. The episode begins with the game, which basically consists of all players being in the center, and the number called out is the number they must enter a room with. In the first round, the number is 10. They quickly start searching for a partner. Some don't match the number and must keep looking, as there is a time limit. Sung joins a strange group where both have number 5, and they manage to pass the first test. However, many didn't find partners and were eliminated. Then, they start the game again, and the new number is 4. They begin dividing and grouping to enter the rooms, and those who don't make it are eliminated. However, a group of 3 enters a room, and even though they thought there would be no problem, the cameras confirm there were 3, and they are eliminated. In the next round, everyone exits even more cautiously. But soon the betrayals begin due to the limited number of players. The roulette sounds, and the new number is 3. They quickly organize and separate into certain pairs, including the elderly woman, who tries to take her son. Fortunately, Sung takes her and survives. The 4th round begins. The son, who decided to save himself instead of his mother, feels guilty, but she tells him it's okay. However, he starts crying because he was about to lose her. The roulette advances, and the number is 6. This time, the betrayals and pushing intensify, and many are eliminated. Arguments start, and emotions collapse due to the fear. In the 5th and final round, everyone returns to the center. The roulette spins, and the number is 2. Here, everyone fights to enter the room since no more people can fit. The betrayals and sacrifices to survive increase. Even the leader has to eliminate someone to save himself. And thus ends Game 3. Outside, Yuno and the team continue searching. Inside, everyone returns to their rooms. However, due to the betrayals, no one trusts anyone anymore. Soon, the teams get smaller, and the conversations grow more tense as more players want to continue than those who want to leave. The guards appear with the results of the 3rd game. A total of 35 billion. And each player would get 356 million. It's a high amount, so they only need to persuade the players to stay and win the money. The votes begin. Sung votes to leave, and one by one, the players start voting. When it's player 120's turn, only 3 more votes are needed to form the majority and leave. At the same time, Yuno notices something suspicious on an island and decides to go with his team. They find a door, and the entire team heads toward it. But it turns out to be a trap. Despite the results, the vote is tied 48 to 48. The last player's vote, and the result is 49 to 50. It's the leader's turn, and to everyone's surprise, he votes for a tie. Now, as the rules state, they must vote again in 1 hour for them to think it over. Discussions begin in the rooms, and it's clear that the groups are divided. However, something freezes Sung. They served food with metal cutlery, making it clear that they plan to have the players eliminate each other so the game can continue. A fight breaks out in the bathroom between the YouTuber and the rapper. Just as they had suspected, they begin using the forks. Episode 7, Friends or Foe? The lights go out, and the battle begins. Everyone starts moving, attacking those in their beds. The fight erupts, and many die. When the massacre ends, the guards enter the room to check on the fallen and calm those still fighting. However, Sung's team attacks, steals their weapons, and kills several guards. The black-clad guard orders them to leave, but the players now have weapons. Sung asks the survivors that if they finish off all the guards, they can escape and get the money. Everyone will win. Some players join the plan, while most stay in the room. Soon, a group led by the trans girl, who was once military, climbs the stairs and kills many guards. But as they progress, they run out of ammunition. The leader also helps in advancing, and they manage to get closer to the control room. But some players die in the process. Meanwhile, the leader watches one of the cameras, and the black guard notices. Later, the leader joins Sung, and they are the last ones alive. The leader tells Sung that he will go ahead to reach the back and trap the guards. Sung even gives him some ammunition because he will need it. Below, one of the munition handlers panics and doesn't respond to the radio. So the trans girl decides to go down to find him, thinking something happened to him. However, the leader betrays the players, knocks down the person with him, and through the radio orders the guards to finish off all the players. The guards come down and kill each one of the players. Meanwhile, the trans girl searches for the munition handler, but he's no longer there. Finally, Sung and his friend face the leader. He comes down to confront them and says, "Did you enjoy being a hero? Now face the consequences." He then kills Sung's friend, leaving him crying and begging for his friend, who has now passed. This is where the 2nd season ends. Let me know what you think of it. I really enjoyed it a lot. See you. Bye.